This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast. Welcome to So St. Paul, a show that is all about, you guessed it, St. Paul, Minnesota, and all the things and all the people and all the events that make our city a wonderful place to be. I am your host, Katie DeSalle, and I am here every Thursday from 5 to 5:30 p.m. right here on WFNU LP 94.1 FM. It's Frogtown Community Radio. Today on So St. Paul, we're talking about Minnesota's Day Without Childcare, a day to raise awareness about the importance of high-quality, affordable childcare. This episode of So St. Paul is presented in partnership with Minnesota Public Radio and Little Moments Count. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org. I'll be welcoming monthly guests to talk about how they view the role of early childhood development in creating bright futures and strong communities. Minnesota's Day Without Childcare aims to raise awareness about the critical need for affordable childcare and the importance of high-quality early education. On Monday, March 3rd at Wilder at 911 Lafond Avenue in St. Paul, from 1 to 4 p.m., parents, teachers, and advocates will gather to learn more and advocate for better policies. Today, I'm talking with childcare advocates Celeste Finn, Leslie Rumsey, and Angela Clair, who emphasize the challenges faced in sustaining childcare centers, including high costs and the difficulty of paying fair wages to staff while maintaining quality standards. This event seeks to influence legislators and secure better funding and policies to support families, educators, and children. More information can be found about the event at kidscountonus.com. Welcome, Celeste, Leslie, and Angela.
I'm Celeste Finn, the director of Big Wonder Childcare. I opened Big Wonder in August of 2023, so just over 18 months ago. It's a nonprofit here in St. Paul.
I'm Leslie Rumsey. I am a teacher at Big Wonder. I have been a nanny for almost 20 years and decided to make the switch to working with Celeste and my team at Big Wonder. I'm also a parent, and my daughter attends school here.
And I'm Angela Clair. I am the center director at the Wilder Child Development Center. I have been at the Wilder Child Development Center for 20 years in a variety of different roles, and the center director for the last 4.
March 3rd, coming up, is the Minnesota Day Without Childcare. Can you all just tell me a little bit more about the event?
There's a national day that's happening in May, but Minnesota's having ours in March because our legislative cycle is early. So they'll have already voted on the budget by then. So we want to do it earlier so that it can hopefully influence lawmakers and legislators to know the importance of childcare as a public good, as infrastructure, as the work behind the workforce. I'm very committed to Day Without Childcare and working with parents and families and teachers and other centers to create more awareness about the struggles of maintaining and operating a childcare center. It's not well known, maybe, how expensive it is and how little profit there are and how licensing and ratios and requirements that I think are absolutely essential make it so that it's really difficult to pay teachers a fair wage, a living wage, and have quality staff, which trained quality staff is essential for quality childcare, which is definitely the rights of children. So there's a lot of factors at play that make it really difficult to run a quality center. And so we want to make some noise about what we need in terms of funding and in terms of better policy, and hopefully get everyone on board.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Celeste was saying about the cost and wanting to make sure that we do make some noise about that. Having high quality childcare programming for kids and families, there's many different costs to it, including the staffing, including the materials, including the time. All of those different things come into play. And our center did participate in a day without childcare a couple of years ago, and really just want to make sure that people are aware that for families to be able to go to work and have these jobs and maintain these jobs, they do need a place for their children to go. And without investing in childcare, there's not those places for families to bring their children.
Speaking as a parent and a teacher, this line of work is something I've definitely chosen to do. I'm very passionate about it, but it does affect when I decided to have kids and like spacing out their ages, because I needed my son to be in kindergarten before we could afford to have another child. I loved nannying, and I did it for as long as I did because I was long-term with some families, but also because my kids got to come with me. And so we didn't have childcare costs. And then my daughter now can come with, and she's at a discounted rate, which is very much needed for us. And it definitely has impacted the choices that my husband and I have had to make for our own jobs. Unlike he used to work nights, and like I said, being able to bring my kids to work with me so we didn't have the cost of childcare. But it definitely is a career that I want to be in. It's just not lucrative.
For some of the things that are going on in this session this year, are there specific things that you're looking for to get funded, or is it just general more funding for teacher training and childcare centers?
Pushing for a bill that would make it so that all families in Minnesota, 7% of their income would go to childcare. So it is reinforcing that childcare is a public good. It benefits the whole and is essential for the economy of Minnesota, and it's essential for the well-being of the families. We know families with young children often are starting out in their careers. And just so we're clear on the costs in St. Paul, we're a nonprofit. We definitely don't charge the most. We don't charge the less, but we're right in the middle. And full-time care here for preschools is $18,200. And that is not affordable for most families in St. Paul. And it's the cost of care that I need to do to make ends meet and balance a budget as a nonprofit. And then we have families here, single parents, who make $56,000 and they don't qualify for childcare assistance, right? And so if you make $60,000, you do not have $18,000 to go towards childcare. And obviously infant costs are much higher than that. So just understanding that it is a real big pain point for families to make it. And if families, and the unfair burden often is on moms, they sacrifice their careers, they sacrifice financial freedom, they sacrifice wealth mobility. And I think it's, as I know I'm going off your original question here, but it's certainly one of my main objectives for participating in all this is gender equity and wealth mobility for everyone, to make it's quality childcare that's affordable and accessible. For me, it's the greatest equalizer in our society.
And I think for me, to go on that same vein that Celeste is talking about, is the early childhood or the early learning scholarships too, that they are in a way right now that could lose some of their funding. And we have a quarter of our families at our center that are utilizing the early childhood or the early learning scholarships because of what you just said, Celeste, about not being in that space where they can afford childcare, but also don't make a lower wage to get childcare assistance. And that's one thing that we're really watching and trying to support as well.
You had mentioned, Celeste, the 7% that we're trying to get for going to early childcare providers from each taxpayer in Minnesota, or is it just Ramsey County?
Minnesota.
Okay, great.
7% is the local state. And to get that will require everyone on board. We need everyone, all families, all teachers, it'll be a huge push because that's not a cheap program to offer to make it to 7% is the most families are paying. There's a lot of people asking for money, right? I was talking with an organizer from Kids Counting Us this morning about testifying at the Capitol on Thursday because they want to do a tax cut for corporations that will be $100 million that will go towards corporations in the form of a tax cut. So money's always getting moved around. So it's deciding what's our priority in the state of Minnesota. Is it a tax cut for wealthy corporations in Minnesota, or is it families that have a child in foster care? Yeah, and then I think we say that we give families in foster care and children that have a parent who is incarcerated these early learning scholarships, and we say that if you're within 180% of the poverty line, that you'll get childcare assistance, but none of these are fully funded. So I've had families that make $46,000 as their household income. So they definitely qualify for CCAP, childcare assistance programming, but there's an 8-month wait list in Ramsey for funding to come through. And sometimes in Ramsey County, there's been 2-year backlog before you can even get into the system. And so the priority for early learning scholarships in the state of Minnesota are if a child of a teen parent currently in foster care, in need of child protective services, experienced homelessness in the last 2 years, are those that get priority for early learning scholarships. So these are truly children who really need quality care. And early learning is the amount centers get for each child on an early learning scholarship is contingent on their quality rating in the state of Minnesota. So their parent aware rating. So the more stars you have, the more qualification you have for parent aware rating, the more income you will receive per child in the form of tuition from the state of Minnesota. So we say that we support families and we say that we're providing this assistance. If you Google Department of Human Services, they'll say these services are here, but when you dig into it, a year wait list is too late. That's not serving families equitably.
It's incredibly important to note that 80% of brain development happens between ages 0 and 5, and how that's just like early learning is just not a respected field. We're oftentimes seen as babysitters, but so much development happens in these years, and it's critical that every child has access to quality care and working on social emotional functioning, executive functioning, all things that are going to set them up for success in school. And if they're not getting it before kindergarten, they're gonna be behind from the jump. Getting people to understand how important that is part of this process as well.
I wanted to echo that too, because the thing about kids being ready for school and being able to be in elementary and beyond and be productive students, which then had them become productive citizens and things like that, the information is out there. The research is out there about the return on investment. We have this information. It's not unknown information. And so if you invest this amount into the field that can help support the kids and families to get them there, your return is so much greater. It's there.
What can people do to help? And you mentioned the cost of teacher trainings and the time and energy that goes into that. Could you talk a little bit about what those teacher trainings look like?
Teacher training is something that is ongoing. We have requirements through licensing of things that need to happen every year. We're also an accredited center, so we have requirements around accreditation, and we're a Head Start partner. So we have also requirements around Head Start. So the cost for trainings is a cost that the program has to take on, but also making sure that staff have the time to complete those trainings. And that can be a cost to your program as well. You don't want to have your program closed too many days because families need to have their children in care. And so that is something that we are looking at. We want to make sure that trainings are affordable and also done in a way that doesn't impact families too much. And I know that there's some requirements of trainings that are coming down the line with licensing that hopefully they're going to be able to provide to centers as well, so that we won't have to go out and search for trainings or pay for trainings as we have for some in the past.
How many teachers?
And it's the qualifications that you have before a teacher can start working. You either need X amount of thousands of hours to be an aide if you have a bachelor degree. Leslie, can I use you as an example? Leslie was a nanny for 19 years. She's a mom of 2 children, but she hasn't finished her bachelor's.
Correct.
She has a number of credits, but hasn't got the diploma. Despite all of the trainings that we've done, orientation training, first aid, CPR, child development, all these trainings that we've done in-house. She does not right now qualify to be lead teacher. So there's a lot of costs that teachers need to incur to become a certified teacher, right? And yet most centers will pay $18 to $19 an hour for a lead teacher. So it's essential to have training as a teacher. You absolutely cannot manage a classroom without training and expertise. So there's no way that I'm saying we need to get rid of these requirements. They're essential for the rights and the quality of care. There will be maltreatment cases going up if these are not maintained. However, to require someone to have a degree, a 2-year or 4-year degree, and pay the minimum wage less than what they could make at McDonald's across the street, people aren't sticking in the field. And that's why maintaining and retaining quality teachers is really difficult.
How many teachers are typically, what's like the student to teacher ratio in childcare centers?
The typical ratio for preschoolers would be 1 to 10. And then toddlers, 1 to 7. Infants, I believe, is 1 to 4. We don't have infants. And that's great. And that's a good standard to be with. However, that doesn't take into consideration the needs of all the children that are in that age group, right? So you could have a group of 10 kids with one teacher, and you might have 5 of those kids that need extra supports and needs. So you really actually need 2. And so, yes, you're getting the compensation of having 10 kids enrolled, but you really have to have 2 teachers in that classroom to support the needs of those children as well.
But the concern then, if it's profit over children, is a lot of centers will, no matter what the needs of the kids are, it's a 1 to 10 ratio. And that's what they're going to stick to. It doesn't matter what the needs of kids are. And if the kids' needs are too high, then you have to terminate their care. And there isn't care services provided for children with special needs who are under the age of 5. So they can get speech and they can get observations done in childcare or at home, but there's not a care service provided from the state of Minnesota. And so it leaves families and centers in a really difficult position. And even as a nonprofit, we cannot afford to have a para or a 1-to-1. It's literally impossible for us without additional funding.
Because of the low rate of income for teachers at childcare centers, have you noticed a high turnover rate with your employees?
High turnover or not even being able to hire people. We've had a lead teacher position open for over 2 years that was not able to be filled. And it's really about the qualification. You get people that will apply that, yeah, they've had a lot of experience either nannying or being in a school system as a para, what have you, and they don't have the educational experience behind them. You can work with your licensor and get variances and things like that, but that's even difficult in some states or in some ways too.
But what's frustrating is that if you have a bachelor's degree in anything, you could have someone who's got decades worth of experience with kids, someone who's got an engineering degree can come in and be a lead teacher. Not to say they wouldn't be wonderful at it, but it just seems like a silly rule. But I agree with Celeste. You need to have the training. You need to have the education. That is critical. But definitely speaking as someone who's hit the roadblocks of just, I didn't finish my degree, but have tons of experience. I'm a good example of someone who is qualified, but just not on paper.
Not only does it sound like you need funding, obviously, but perhaps having some of the rules around who is a lead teacher and what those qualifications are need to change as well.
There's a lot of poor policy choices. So policies written by people who have not been in childcare, which is often the case. They don't have experience. They don't know the outcomes. So definitely working on childcare reform, modernizing Rule 3, that's statutes that govern childcare. So it's not so punitive and exasperating and almost impossible. So I know of centers in the past year and in-home family centers that have closed just because the regulations from the Department of Human Services are exasperatingly difficult. So a ton of paperwork, a ton of time. And I'll just give you an example. If there's a chapstick that's in a child's backpack, I didn't put it in there. I didn't look in the backpack. Licensor comes, they see the chapstick. I get cited for leaving medication accessible to children. Wow. So the amount of paperwork and policing I have to do in my center to make sure we're up to Rule 3 and do not get cited is extreme. The same is true for baby wipes. If baby wipes are within hand's reach of a child, we'll get cited for leaving medication accessible to children. So some of the rules in licensing are archaic, asinine, and definitely, and we're working through a modernization. A first modernization went through last year. We were like, this is not good enough. It just made it harder, not streamlined. And again, I'm a critic of childcare. I believe in quality childcare. I believe in the rights of kids. I believe in licensing. I'm not saying removing licensing. There are parties here that will argue, parties in Minnesota that say, okay, so we need to get rid of teacher qualifications. We need to get rid of licensing, making it too expensive. Absolutely not. That will lead to maltreatment and abuse and neglect of children 100%. So we can't do that, but it doesn't mean we can't reform and make them efficient so that they are actually protecting children. They're actually creating quality care.
Looking for flexibility
And support.
What if people are interested in going on Monday? Is there a location that they can go to and find out more information? What's the next steps?
And so we are actually holding an event. Our address is 911 Lafond Avenue in St. Paul at the Wilder Child Development Center on the 3rd in the afternoon, 1 p.m. to be a part of the energy of why this is so important. We're going to have children and families and teachers, not only from our center, but other centers participating to create some signs of things that they want to make sure people know why this is so important. And then also having a little march around the neighborhood to share our ideas and why we think this is important, followed up with a press conference with some folks here and our Kids Count on Us members as well. And we would love to have people participate that in any way to really share what this means for you as a family, what this means for you as a teacher, and programs, why it's important.
Besides going to the event and sharing their stories, is there anything people can do after the event? Let's say they can't make it on Monday. Are there any ways that they can reach out to you guys?
There's a couple of ways. You could go to Big Wonder's website and contact us through the website and say, hey, I want to get involved. And then I can connect you to different resources or connect you to our parents and just keep you in the loop. Kids Count on Us also has a website. And then you can sign up to get their newsletters and be aware of next steps. We are always looking for parents to testify, write op-eds, organize with us. It's definitely linking arms and to create some awareness. If I can just say one other thing that I think is critical so people know the urgency. I mentioned before that balancing a budget is really hard and hiring staff is really hard. And with inflation and rising costs, parent wages being stagnant, tuition can't go up. And because of this, we're a failed market system. We can't calibrate with the market, and many centers are closing. 2 of the oldest centers in Minnesota closed within 12 months of each other. Haley Q. Brown closed last month, and St. Kate's closed 12 months before. These have been around for 60 and 90 years, and now they're closing. Both of them were nonprofits. So I think if we don't get funding, that we're next to a cliff here in terms of we're already have low supply for quality childcare, and it's going to get really gnarly in the next 5 years if funding can happen.
Count on Us has a good template too for like writing to legislatures. We're like, it's already written out, sign your name. That's probably the easiest thing that families could do to really make some noise. It's just send that out. And I believe their website has that information.
Definitely.
Copy and paste and write some emails.
What is their website?
KidsCountOnUs.com.
Is there actually no childcare then on this coming Monday?
No, so we are closed half day. We didn't want to leave my families totally in the lurch. This is our first year participating, and we're a new center. So we did a half day, and then we close at 12:45, and we'll head over to Wilder.
And same with us. We're closing at noon that day for the same reason. We don't want to leave families without care that need it. And it's the first time we're doing it this way as well.
In an ideal world, what does childcare look like for you all in the state of Minnesota?
The first thing that pops into my head when I hear this question is the recognition for the work and the field that we are in is something that I really hope to have at some point, to recognize that early childhood is important. childcare is important. And we're just as important as elementary teachers, high school teachers, whatever teacher you name, we're just as important. That's something that I have wanted to have happen for a long time. I feel like there's conversations that are happening to get us in the right direction. It's not totally there yet, but that's something that I really hope for. That conversation can continue so that professionals in the field feel valued for the work that they do. And that, yeah, they're not just babysitting. We are building children to be ready for their future success.
And for me, it's exceptional childcare for everyone that is culturally relevant and respectful and meaningful. It focuses on social emotional learning, executive functioning skills, is race conscious, that truly meets the needs of children and is attuned to the needs of children. And teachers are given the skills they needed to manage a classroom and do all of this, which is just not the case right now. So burnout is real because we're asking teachers to do things that they don't know how to do, or they don't know how to do as well as they could. And there's just not enough research and development and innovation in early childhood. So attuned care, really great training and really great pay for teachers. I want teachers to be making $34 an hour. I want them to have retirement. I want them to have health benefits. I want them to have PTO, which most teachers do not get any benefits at all. They get family care and medical leave because that's state law now for full-time workers. But other than that, there's very little PTO or health or retirement in most childcare centers offered. And then I want all families to be able to send their kids to childcare and not be scared that their kids are being abused, neglected, harmed at childcare, and that they feel respected by the provider and teachers, and they feel like they are in a really rich partnership that's supportive. So everyone can have the career of their dreams and continue to grow professionally and personally in their family and in their community.
I was just going to add that if people are interested in wanting to engage further with that day here at our center at Wilder, you can look at our website, which is wilder.org, and go to what we offer childcare.
And I think I would just mention that the return on investment and for children, and the most conservative research shows 1 to 7. Other research shows 1 to 12. There's literally nothing that has a return on investment than investing in early childhood for outcomes. And I also, one reason why I've dedicated my life to this is our achievement gap in Minnesota is the second highest in the nation. So our racial disparities and our opportunities based off of income and race in St. Paul are atrocious. It's just some of the largest racial inequities and income inequities in the entire country. And for me, early childhood will help dramatically reduce the achievement gap that we have, and providing quality care will radically reduce racial inequities, gender inequities, and income inequities that we have so prevalent in St. Paul.
Thank you so much for tuning in to So St. Paul. So St. Paul airs every Thursday from 5 to 5:30 p.m. right here on WFNU LP 94.1. It's Frogtown Community Radio. This episode of So St. Paul is presented in partnership with Minnesota Public Radio and Little Moments Count. Thank you so much to childcare advocates Celeste Finn, Leslie Rumsey, and Angela Clair for taking the time to speak with me today about Minnesota's Day Without Childcare. Please get involved Monday, March 3rd from 1 to 4 p.m. at Wilder Center at 911 Lafond Avenue in St. Paul. Get involved, show up, and let legislators know how important our children's early education is. You can find more information about the event at kidscountonus.com. And to hear a recording of this interview, visit littlemomentscount.org/podcasts. I am Katie DeSalle, and I will be back next week with more great things about our city. This is So St. Paul on Frogtown Community Radio. Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.